Welcome to Must America, John Blanchard. Joining with me again is Eric Baylor from NASA Ed Corp. Welcome, Eric.
Always a pleasure to be here, John.
You know, when we finished off our last show, we were talking about Gene Symes, Veterans for Veterans Connection, Operation Firing for Effect. I talk to Gene Symes all the time. And when I first met him out in Washington on the Capitol grounds, it was quite a remarkable event, having all these veterans there for mandatory funding.
Right.
And he has gone nonstop for years now, trying to get this mandatory funding approved. We recently had it here in Cook County with over 95% of the voting public in Cook County to vote yes for mandatory funding. Several other states, we saw some of that in the interview that we had with him. Senator Hillary Clinton passed a resolution or signed a resolution in New York for that. But I think what's really interesting about what he does is just the number of people that he touches. When you went down to the Pat Quinn press conference,
Right.
There was a group of people there that put that together.
Right. Bruce Perry, I believe is his last name, right?
There's Mr. Perry, there was a Mr. Monahan there.
Yes.
They were from the Coalition of Veterans in Cook County, and they put on a pretty good show to get Pat Quinn's press release
They
out.
brought quite a few people with them.
And the whole function actually took, what, an hour?
Yes,
Hour and a half?
yes. They all spoke. Each one of them had their own little speech prepared, and they all talked about the mandatory funding and why we need to have this. And it was very touching to hear these people speak about it.
I spoke with Senator Feinstein's office yesterday, Trevor or somebody, one of her aides. I was actually on a conference call with Gene Symes. One of the things they're doing there, I don't understand all of the facts, but they're taking a piece of this 320-acre VA facility in West Los Angeles, and they've leased out portions of it, including buildings. And in this decade, when we've got the largest number of veterans in the country ever needing PTSD treatment, traumatic brain injury treatment, just the disabilities that they come back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And again, whether you agree with the war in Iraq or the moving into Afghanistan, it doesn't really matter. These are still the American veterans coming back.
Right.
We need more space, not chiseled pieces of the VA away.
Right.
I'd encourage anybody to write a letter to senators and congressmen to keep the VA whole. If you can't get on board with mandatory funding, well, I'm sorry, but at least keep the VA whole with what they've got now. But Gene Symes has been doing this an awfully long time, and he's got a huge following.
How long has Gene been doing this?
From when I met him in Washington, D.C., I think it was 2003 we met out there. I think he'd had a few years already. It was interesting how he even got started and why he got started.
That was another question I was going to ask you.
Well,
How did he get started?
we've got that on some of the interview. Let's take a look at that.
Great.
How you came to this? You're a disabled veteran.
Mm-hmm.
You were in Vietnam. We went through a little bit of your bio at the opening of the show, but how did you acquire the disability? It's service connected.
Well, my disability is service connected. I was hit once with a piece of shrapnel below my right lower part of the ear and up towards the temple of my head, and it's enlarged about the size of a dime back in 1966. I joined in 1963, got out in '69, and I also sustained in the waters, I think it was Agent Orange, and whatever that water might have, biological or infested with germs, whatever, and now I'm legally blind since all that's happened. But the question is, how did I start it with Operation Fire for Effect? Well, first I started out with Veterans Connection, and Operation Fire for Effect is a subsidiary of that. Operation Fire for Effect, so we can enable ourselves to be able to stand up and voice our opinion, whether they're a politician or a non-politician, and not have to worry about how our original organization, VFVC, which is incorporated and not-for-profit, hurt that at all. We didn't want anything to be hurt. So we utilized a name and put it together, and now it's become very strong. Russ Scarvelli from Ohio was the one that actually gave me the first opportunity. In 2005, we was in Washington DC for a Million Man March. And what happened, the person in charge never showed up. So it ended up being about 39 some odd people there. And nobody was there to speak. So Russ says, hey, Marine, you get up and talk. And I said, well, once you got me up there, you know, you're not going to get rid of me. So I took the handle on that. And we went into the Capitol short time after that. And we met up with a guy by the name of Jeffrey Phillips. And I think I told you about that. Jeffrey Phillips, he's a House Representative Communication Director. Well, we got in that room 334, the Cannon House building, and he started talking. I said, hey, there's a problem here. I told myself, I got to tell this guy to sit down. So I walked up and said, sit down. I said, sit down. He finally sat down. I said, that clothes, that tie, those shoes, we pay for it with our tax money. You're here to listen to us. Do you understand that? And that's when a strong relationship started. So with that, we've been in Washington approximately 4 or 5 times now, and every time always requesting a building, whether the Senate building or the House building, or the Cannon House, we've always got it with no questions. It wasn't easy. It was a very hard task. Everybody thought it was going to work, but what we don't have broken, we don't repair, we just improve, and that's what we did with Operation Find for Effect. Thanks to Russ Scarvelli, Simon Alvarado, Val Cortazio, Don Schulte, Jerry Berry, and the many, many others that are supporting this, Bob Finken, and the unions behind this. Because without them believing in what my ideas were, and my ideas are theirs, I'm not a dictator, it never would have happened.
The guy sets out on a mission, and sure enough, he's full charging with his whole heart in it. This is his life, is the Veterans for Veterans Connection, operating fire.
He's definitely a Marine.
Yes, he is. It's interesting how he became visually impaired. I mean, he mentioned a little bit there, but the way he described it to me the first time was he got hit with a grenade, a little bit of shrapnel. That knocked him down. That was bad enough, but when he went down, he went into this cesspool of water that got in his eyes and almost completely blinded him. But all he needs to be able to see is the goal that's ahead of him, and he's full charge and you get to it. StardustRadio.com, every Tuesday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, heard around the world. Tune into that. Gene Symes always has some topic on there, some dignitary, some program, or some official somewhere to talk about mandatory funding. If you want more information, again, StardustRadio.com, or Gene Symes' website, www.VFVC, Veterans for Veterans Connection, VFVC.net. You know, I have to mention this all the time, the stand down that we have. This is your 3rd stand down?
Yes.
That you've been with us. Stephanie Rojo, our senior producer and technical producer, has a message about the stand down, why a stand down, and a lot of things that go on during the stand down. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Okay.
Stephanie Rojo.